All right. Hello, 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 fellow growth enthusiasts, and welcome to the Grow Up with Grow show. This is a show for CEOs, for VCs, for CROs, and for CMOs as we talk about growth for B2B tech companies, and growth for our community as a whole. I'm Brett Sklar, managing partner here at Grow Powerful, where we've assembled the greatest growth and marketing minds in all of B2B technology. We're here today to talk about the differences between a fractional CMO and a consultant. Big differences. This show is really designed to talk to the CEOs and investors of these companies. But if you're a full-time or fractional CMO, this is still a good show. But I'm going to be sharing ideas for and from the perspective of the CEO. Just so you know, we're live streamed on our podcast, our YouTube channel, our blog. We're basically everywhere. We even added a LinkedIn newsletter to our repertoire, and we hope that you check it out there. If you have questions or comments, we're listening to the feed no matter where you are listening to this show or watching this show. So let's dive into the juicy topic of today. Today's topic is understanding the differences between a fractional CMO and a consultant. Now, outside of the conversation about the full-time versus fractional CMO, which we covered last time and got a lot of great feedback on, this is also an incredibly common question about the differences between a fractional CMO and a consultant. So you have to ask yourself, what's the right approach for growth? What's the right tool in the tool belt? What's the right hammer to hammer that nail? What talent is available to deliver on what is needed? I thought we'd approach this in a little bit of a this or that kind of way today, kind of like a cheesy Saturday Night Live game show where we look at this or that and we figure out what the right approach is. So I'm going to list out the topics. There's about 12 of them. And then we're going to go in and talk about each of them one by one. First one, specific versus generic. Next, short-term versus long-term. Ownership versus answers. Inside versus outside. Answers or execution. To team or not to team. Cultural alignment and integration. Board involvement. Part-time employee or isolated pro. Compensation model. Definition of results, which is like a statement of work versus a company results. Can an ICMO be a consultant? And can a consultant be an ICMO? Let's go to the top. Specific versus generic. When you have a specific problem, something that needs solving, maybe it's a competitive analysis, maybe it's a market opportunity analysis, maybe it is an analysis on existing programs that are taking place, a consultant can really be a good solution. There's a specific statement of work, there is a specific outcome, and that outcome should be reported to the people who can take action on it. Versus generic. Generic is you have a growth problem or you need resources to help the company grow and build a marketing team and a marketing program. And that's when you need a fractional CMO, somebody that can look at all the pieces, see what's available, and take some action based on that. Next is a short-term versus long-term approach. Now, the really long-term might be a full-time CMO, but we're talking about emerging technology companies and needing something short-term versus longer-term. Shorter term is probably better for a consultant, a specific isolated problem that needs to be solved in a short period of time. Longer term is really that more strategic approach of looking at all things, all approaches, and all angles. Short term, a consultant is better. Longer term, typically a fractional CMO is going to be more ideal for that. Ownership versus answers. As a CEO, are you looking for someone to take ownership of a problem and really work through solving that problem, solving that opportunity, getting in there and addressing the need? Or are you looking for specific answers? If ownership is what you seek, a fractional CMO is going to be better all day long. If you're looking for specific answers to a problem, then probably a consultant is better for you that has specific capabilities in the answers that you need, the questions that you need answered. Inside versus outside. Now, while a fractional CMO is technically not an insider, Our goal is to make every fractional CMO feel like an insider, work inside the company, work to help build something and to assemble a group and to integrate with other parts of the company and other functions within that company. Versus outside, someone you don't really want to mess with the internals, but you want to get an answer. So inside, fractional CMO, outside, a consultant can really be a good solution. Answers or execution. Sometimes you just need answers to fundamental questions or market opportunity questions. And that's when a consultant is really good to plug in and to use, to leverage, to execute. On the execution side, a full execution of a program to execute on the growth, that's where you need a fractional CMO, someone who's going to be able to execute end to end, that's going to be able to take the ball, that's going to be able to align with other resources within the company and maybe outside the company to get things done, and will take that ownership. To team or not to team? That is the question. Sometimes you just need somebody to get in there, solve specific problems, and not really meddle with the team or the people or integrate with others. And that's fine. That's where a consultant is really going to come in handy. But if you do want somebody to integrate with the team, if you do want somebody to work across functions, if you do want somebody to help solve problems in a collaborative way, whether that's across other organizations or deeper within a specific organization, a fractional CMO is probably going to be a good fit for you. Then you have to ask yourself about cultural alignment and integration. And the team or not to team is kind of a part of that. But this is more specific about finding the right person that's going to align with your company. If it's a consultant, you really don't need to worry that much about cultural alignment. You just need to make sure that the questions that you want this consultant to answer can be answered, or the function that you want this consultant to do can be done, and who that consultant is going to report out the solution to. If you're looking for a fractional CMO, however, you do want to incorporate the cultural alignment and feel like that person is integrated with what you are building. For us here at Grow, with our fractional CMOs, we ask questions to our fractional CMOs about the environments that they want to be a part of. And then we ask the CEOs about the people that they want to have as a part of their program. And we look for that alignment for companies. Not everybody does that. Not every fractional CMO does that. But that's something that we do here and we take incredibly seriously. The next this or that isn't really a this or that. It's just a statement. And it's about board involvement. So board of directors or investor involvement. A lot of times you might not want somebody to get anywhere near your board. You want them to address something specifically and move on and let the leadership team or the CEO present findings to a board. And that's cool. That's awesome. That works. But sometimes you want to allow someone else to have that interaction with the board in a specific function, such as marketing, such as head of marketing, such as a CMO or a fractional CMO. In that case, it's more ideal to have somebody as a fractional CMO if you want them involved in the board. Here's the great news. I am speaking to a lot of venture capital firms, a lot of board members, and a lot of investors. And these investors are actually embracing the idea of a fractional chief marketing officer as a more cost-effective and more culturally effective way to get the marketing program off the ground. The next one, part-time employee or isolated pro. And this one feels like it should be very direct, but there's a couple of nuances to it. While a fractional CMO is not a full-time employee, they are essentially, and I'm not talking about an IRS definition or a tax definition of part-time versus full-time, but they are in essence acting on behalf of the company as if they were an employee. Whereas a consultant is going to be an isolated pro, somebody that is not acting on behalf of a company, but just getting the company something that's needed. Then there's a compensation model. In our world, and in theory, a fractional CMO should be retained, should be committed to a certain number of hours or a certain amount of deliverables on a weekly or monthly or quarterly basis. Whereas a consultant is probably going to have a statement of work, is probably going to have specific outcomes and a specific timeline to when those outcomes will be delivered, which is very different than a fractional CMO that really is building a program or taking the reins for a short, medium, or longer period of time and helping people get to those answers. And we have to ask ourselves, what is the definition of results for each? For a consultant, the definition of results are there's something in a statement of work that says, here's what the deliverables will be. And then there is a delivery. And the results are about the project or about the thing that the consultant is there to do. And that's different than a fractional CMO whose ultimate results need to be the company's growth, the company's momentum, the company's awareness, the alignment of marketing and sales, and making sure that there is a pipeline that is growing. So that fractional CMO is looking at the results at a company level, similar to a CEO, whereas a consultant is looking at success being delivery of what was put into a statement of work. Very different, but both very important. And then the last two questions: can an ICMO be a consultant? And can a consultant be an ICMO? In my experience, an ICMO can be a consultant. In fact, it's a great way to test a relationship with a client. I just signed up with a client in the healthcare industry that's looking to expand their go-to-market strategy. And they hired me as a consultant first with a specific outcome to understand, identify the competitive environments and how to enter the market based on that competitive environment. Now, we have an understanding that this first engagement, while it is a specific statement of work, it's a precursor to get a feel for each other to see if we're a good fit as a fractional CMO engagement. And I'm actually quite excited about doing it as a consultant first, and then seeing if there's a fit, and then moving into the fractional CMO, or what we call the ICMO model. And so I think that does work. An ICMO can be a consultant. And typically ICMOs are going to have a specific focus. They're going to be greater at one area and not as strong in other areas. So some might be operationally strong and not very good on branding and marketing, branding and messaging. Others might be really strong on brand and brand identity, but less strong operationally. So it makes sense for them to come in as a consultant based on a problem to be solved, and then hopefully evolving that relationship after trust has been established. Can a consultant be an ICMO? Yeah, but very likely they will suck at it. I think it takes a certain mindset to be really strong as a consultant, and that is very different than being an ICMO or a fractional CMO. A consultant doesn't need to worry about interdepartmental relationships. A consultant doesn't need to worry about ongoing results at a company level. And it takes a certain breed of person, it takes a certain capability of a person to be able to pull off a really strong capability as a consultant. And they are needed, and they are outsiders, and they are here to bring you answers. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be good as an ICMO or a fractional CMO. In fact, most of the people that are really good at being consultants really suck at being an ICMO or a fractional CMO. And it's just because they are there to work on their own, isolated, and not integrate with other members of the team. So that's it. That's the 12-ish this or that approaches in the Saturday Night Live fun way, although it's a very serious topic, to talk about the ideas of, is it better to be a fractional CMO or a consultant, and what do you choose based on what you need as a company? That's it. That's the show. Don't forget to visit us at growpowerful.io Don't forget to subscribe to Grow Up with Grow on your favorite podcast tool. Subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn and search for us on YouTube. We are everywhere. Thank you, and we hope you have a fantastic, fantastic day.